So what I'm going to do again is put some metal down in my sock here. Put some keys in my pocket. I have a cup of hot water to help me. Since I don't actually have a fever, the best method I can find on this is to put a hot object next to it. So can you see my video? I think that's Raymond there. Are you able to see me now? Okay, good.
Temperature over the range.
So what that was keys on the left side. Did you see the corresponding sides light up from where it was on my person? So you'll see that metal objects are going to set the metal detector off in the corresponding zone. So if I have metal over here, this LED will light up. If I have metal down on my left side, that corresponding LED will light up and make an audible alarm. So now I'm going to go through without any metal and with no temperature, and you can see how that works.
Normal temperature.
There's a couple things I want to mention about the metal detector. This, I don't know how familiar you are with ZKTeco, but we have other units that are adjustable. The speed face reader, for example, set a range of temperatures there and have it go off. This is preset at 100.4 degrees Fahrenheit, so that means that everyone who goes through here will have the same level of fever. So this unit is kind of like a counterpart to the speed face reader, meaning that it doesn't report to any software. You do have to have a local, either like a security guard, you have to have somebody monitoring this for the local alarm. So the alarm comes in two ways. You can actually silence the audible alarm, but you cannot turn off the LED alarm. Likewise, I can walk through the metal detector without doing the temperature detection. In the future, this might come in handy, if things kind of calm down. The temperature module is not required to pass through the metal detector, so I'll demonstrate that now. Conversely, you can also use it as just the temperature detection if you want. The sensor is adjustable in the fact that I can position it either here, here, or here. I can put it anywhere, but once it's been manufactured, it's fixed in place. I can also add an additional sensor down here, for example, like for grade school children. So if you were 2 feet tall and you wanted to use your wrist right here, we can mount, obviously for an additional cost, there's going to be 2 sensors on here. We can mount 2 sensors and have either one of those alarm. That's a common request for like elementary school children, so that teachers and children can walk through the same metal detector. I do want to demonstrate, there's also a remote control with it. And what I can do with the remote control, I don't know how well you can see, but there's a control panel up there that's going to tell me how many people have walked through and how many times the alarm has been set off, whether it be the temperature or the metal alarm. It's also adjustable, and each zone has an adjustable sensitivity. So with this remote, I can go up here. I have to input the password, which I've set at 1111. So I have sensitivity level. I can adjust each zone's sensitivity level. And we also have a variety of preset sensitivity programs. One being like a prison setting, where it's the most sensitive on all zones. So for example, in a prison, it'll pick up all metals, non-ferrous. If you have like a stud nose ring, just a little piece of metal, it will pick that up on the prison setting, which is the most sensitive. So some people ask, why would you not want to have the most sensitive all the time? Well, if you're at like a concert and you want people to be able to walk through with their belt buckle or with their cell phone, things like that, you can dial that zone back in the midsection area. So what I'm going to do is show you a different setting. You can kind of see on there. I'm going to change the setting to prison and make it a little more sensitive. Now, I often recommend letting the metal detector recalibrate for 5 to 10 minutes. I'm going to go ahead and just reset it now by pressing the reset button on the remote. We'll see how that works. So when it resets, it's recalibrating. And that's basically just measuring the distance between the coils every time you press the reset button. It also resets the alarm count and the person count. So little remote control. I have the Velcroed up there. It's just an easy, you can also do all of those controls actually on the unit, but the remote control kind of makes it easier for the guard or for the security personnel to maintain that. So that's literally getting the little metal studs in my belt buckle here. So that'll pick up gold, silver, all non-ferrous metals if you want to use it in like a jewelry or a precious metal setting. I should point out that this unit is in Celsius, but all units, this is just a demo unit, all units sold in the U.S. will be in Fahrenheit unless specifically requested to be in Celsius. Same concept, just a slightly, obviously different firmware on the inside. Do you guys have any questions for me? What are some of the use cases that you see if this? If you want to speak up, please feel free. I haven't muted everyone, but if you would rather type your question in, that's fine as well.
Hey, Sean. Is it possible to turn down the metal detector sensor way down so it doesn't pick up as much and use it more for a body temperature one if that's what they want instead of...
That's a great question. So what I can do is turn the sensitivity all the way down. So that'll let me walk through with a belt. I took my belt buckle off. So if I turn the sensitivity all the way down, it's still going to pick up ferrous metals, which is like solid steel, iron, so like guns and knives. So you won't be able to walk through with everything. I can't. If you have a hammer on you, you won't be able to walk through it. If you have, and you can really dial it back so it's not all the way off of the sensitivity, so that obviously you don't want people walking through with guns at pretty much at any time. But if you wanted to use it as not a metal detector, you could just
Normal temperature.
I mean, if you really didn't want to use it as a metal detector, you don't have to have people walk through the center of it, you know what I mean? But there's actually no way to turn off all the metal detection on it. So I'm glad you asked that, because that's a pretty common question is, can we turn off the metal detection? Unfortunately not.
Okay, but you can have it, like you said, that would only pick up like the guns and the knives.
Correct, and you can also turn the alarm volume all the way off. So what I can do is go into the program setting, go to, I don't know if you can see the letters on that screen, but volume here, volume, none. So it'll still be up to the guard to see that the temperature has gone off.
Normal temperature.
So you see in that case, the alarm for the temperature module is still active. So that's really the only option. You can't turn it all the way off, but you can mute it. Does that make sense?
Yep, thank you very much.
Sure. Okay.
What is the lowest point for the sensor that you can move it down? Or do you have to specially request it?
Probably to about 18 inches. There's some like the hardware where you plug it in. I wouldn't want to put it below that. So I'm going to say 18 inches is the lowest. And for elementary school kids, they're still going to be able to raise their wrist up. So I would think they'd still be at 30, 36 inches. You'd have one, say, for here and right here.
But you can't adjust it on site, correct? That has
Correct.
to be that way?
It's installed from the factory. It's a production run. So if you want a unit as at a different height, we can make any height, but it just consider that it's a custom. There's no custom charge. You obviously get charged if you use more than one unit, but we can place it at any level. We just have to produce it at that level. So once it's set, it's set.
Okay, thank you.
Sure. What other questions do I have? I get a lot of questions about connectivity, and there unfortunately is not any connectivity. So we have another model coming out in about a month. The 433 will have an IP port on there, And we're trying to write that into our software. The software team has been obviously inundated with everything in temperature detection. So that is in the pipeline to have these connected, the connectivity be written into the software. But unfortunately, that's not an option right now. It's a common question I get is how do we report with this? So the flip side of that is there are no HIPAA requirements. This isn't a medical device. There's really no liability issues with data or with privacy. If you're a lot of, we've had a lot of concerns about HIPAA and patient privacy and that kind of thing. So this doesn't apply to any of that, which is kind of a roundabout way around that. So it's kind of two sides of the same coin. Last thing I'll talk about is assembly. It takes me like 20 minutes to assemble this by myself, and it's kind of awkward doing it by yourself. We recommend 2 people, but I've put them together several times now. I'm pretty good at it. You can really do it with one guy. Obviously, you need a step ladder. There's no tools required. It's just these 4 little bolts on each side. It ships in a box that's about 90 inches by 30 inches by 20 inches. One person can move it around pretty easily with a pallet jack. It's not too cumbersome. Plugging it in, putting it together, all in all, no more than 30 minutes. And if you've got 2 people, you can knock out a couple of them in 30 minutes. I just want to show you the side panel here, what the actual screw is. There's no tools required. Another thing is you can probably see there's little mounting holes on the bottom. So people ask a lot of times, can you fix this to the ground? If you look on the shoe on the bottom rubber piece here, there is holes where you could bolt this to the ground if need be. Unfortunately, there's not a wheeled option on this model yet, but they are pretty lightweight. I can move it around this room here by myself pretty easily. So that screw, it's really just 8 of these bolts that hold it together. It goes up in 20 or 30 minutes. Yeah, okay.
So just to verify,
yeah.
Can you do it where there's no data?
You can't do it with data. By default, there is no data output from this at all.
Okay.
There's not an option for data. I mean, like you can sit here and there's really no way for this to report. It's not hackable. It's just a power plug. You plug it into the outlet and that's it. Okay.
Then question, obviously it's for indoor use.
It is for indoor use, yes.
How, from the time you turn it on,
yeah,
how quick is it to use it? And I guess, is there a certain temperature it has to be at? So for example, can you put it in a vestibule where you're walking into a school that is a little bit hotter or colder at times than the actual school because you're getting the doors opening in and out?
Yeah, we recommend leaving, if you have a 2 or 3 minute gap between, if your door is constantly opening and closing, as long as it doesn't really drop below 65, it's kind of what we found, you'll be okay. So we do recommend having a vestibule. So I know you're in Wisconsin, I think, is that right?
Yes.
So in the winter time, you're going to get pretty cold. We would recommend making some kind of arrangements to have people indoors for a minute or 2 or 3 before they that way they've acclimated to the air temperature. And yeah, we don't recommend putting this right next to an outside door if it's 10 degrees outside, you know what I mean? So we say operate it at room temperature.
Okay. And how long from the point when you turn it on is it ready to go? Does it take a little bit to warm up the system?
So if you move it, if I just turn it off, I've had it here for an hour or 2. If I just turn it off here and I haven't moved the machine, it should be ready to go right away. If you move the machine or if you've just set it up, let it run for about 10 minutes because what it's going to do is find the distance between the 2 sides. So if it's just stationary and you're just turning it on and off, it's good to go when you turn it on.
Okay. Thank you. Sorry for all the questions.
No, I appreciate the questions because I'd like to get as much information as possible to as many people as possible.
And then one other one, Sean, since I'm on a roll, training on this. I mean, obviously, we see it's very easy to use.
Yeah.
The temperature scanner doesn't look like it takes much. but the metal detector settings may take more. Is
Sure.
training additional through you guys, or is there if somebody orders it and they want to set it up themselves, can they set it up and call you guys for questions and a little bit of training on how to use it, or how does that work?
I'd be glad to do the same thing with anybody who's either on site or who wants, if you guys, have it set up and you're at your facility first and you want to have your people trained on it. Either one, it's through me. It's not, there's no charge for it. I don't have any like official it's not like the Pro Series access control where you're pro certified. I have a best practices document that I wrote for this as far as like with the temperature control, with you need to walk slowly and steadily through it, that kind of thing. There's a best practices manual that and as far as dialing in each zone for each metal, it's kind of I have some settings that work well for me here. I'd be happy to share those with people. But training is kind of, I'm the trainer here. So I hope that answers your question.
Yes, thank you.
If you really needed me to, I could come out on site, and we could arrange for, if you had somebody who insisted on having a manufacturer's person out there, I could, conceivably do that. But I think it's pretty easy to do. Once you do one, you can do them all, and they're pretty self-explanatory.